This is Amy, the hybrid administrator for Rudolf the Tall White Alien. I would like to shortly introduce the process of creating our protective amulet with the age-old symbol of the tall white aliens. These amulets protect against harmful electromagnetic rays, which can break down your immune system, as well as from subliminal demonic influence. Here, as you can see, I carefully engrain this age-old symbol. Now, as you see, the material has been completely hardened and is now ready for pigmentation. During the fourth stage, the pigments are applied. The final stage of creation is the careful firing of the amulets. This is the exciting moment which shows that every amulet is unique and beautiful in its power. Here are a few examples of our powerful amulets which you can choose from.
Greetings, this is Rudolf of Germany, the tall white alien. And next to me it is Amy, our hybrid administrator, who will have a little discussion with me about the perception of reality and if there is such a thing as one mind, and if there is one mind, if each one of us may be the only living creature or not. Amy, what is your take on it?
The question, I believe, is someone who is viewing the world the only viewer, or is everybody else or anything else part of the equation? Understanding and perceiving as much validity as we believe that we are feeling or encountering.
Maybe what you're saying can be a little bit complicated for some of our viewers. So in other words,
let me give a very specific example.
Okay.
For instance, if I were to go out and do something very ill-intended to perhaps harm someone very intensively, would that then be completely okay and completely consequence-free? Should I say I'm the only one who can view, perceive, feel, understand this circumstance? Or are the other parties potentially feeling, perceiving, understanding as much as me? I think that's the question. Is that the question?
Well,
more or less, for a specific example.
Yes, what you're trying to say is, are there more living, conscious creatures in this universe besides myself, or am I the only one who is looking around and experiencing the world, and all other creatures, may it be a plant, an animal, or a human, or any other dweller in other worlds, are these real, or are these just my own imagination? Am I the only one?
So what is your take on this?
Well, the point is, am I the only one alive, and with me the world starts, and when I'm dead or I'm dying, the world stops? Am I the only one, and all the other creatures, like for example you, are only my imagination? Or are you real? Is there such a thing as a real person? That's, in my opinion, the question we're trying to talk about.
Okay, good.
And I think you are having the opinion that there are real people out there, right? That whatever you perceive is real out there, and you are the observer. Or do I see that wrong?
I think it makes complete sense that I am creating my own reality. What I'm observing is, of course, perceived by my own mind, whether it exists or not, separate from me, I could not completely say. But what I would like to say, very specifically, is that while I would completely agree that whatever is external, which I perceive, is created and understood solely by my own mind, while I believe that is a complete truth, completely understandable, I think it would also be a benefit on top of it to also, in a certain sense, perceive these things beyond my obvious self, which I could say as the body which I have and the mind which I obviously have, or might have or might not have, we can also say.
Okay.
I think it would be humane and correct within a certain perception of myself to treat anything beyond myself to be also having
What?
validity, I could say.
So there comes the moral aspect into the game. Just because you are used to the fact that you see other creatures, for example, myself.
Let me be a little bit more explicit. Should Carl or should Rudolf be inside of Carl? Imagine I chop off his head. I could say, that's completely great. Why should I care? I'm the only person in existence. That's great. That's fantastic. What should I care? Now I can go on about living my life. That's great. I could do that. I really could do that. But let me tell you, would that for me be the best way to do things? I'm not 100% convinced. I'll stop there and say that. What would you like to say?
It would not make a difference. You do what you do, and if you chop my head off, then you chop my head off.
Okay.
There is no more to it. The rest is moral.
You could say.
Evaluation. That's
I
all
believe that you could say this is all moral, this is all, karmic, or whatever you want to say or believe. I think that's wishful thinking and trying to put people in their place. I really believe that,
Okay.
If you don't want to say, I don't have any feelings for this or that bad behavior, that's fine, that's acceptable, that can be completely real. But is that beneficial for your future mindset?
Okay, that's one question. The question we
That's
really
what
wanted.
I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I talk about.
Because if I'm existing for forever and energy never dies, and then I go around doing all kinds of things without any regard, in the later time of my life, will that still be good and great and fantastic and beneficial for me? I'm not.
Yeah, but this is not the basic question.
That's the question that I ask myself. What question do you ask yourself?
The question is: are there more than one people? Is there more than one mind in this universe? Is there a universal one mind which is only your mind or the mind of the observer? Because the person who is watching this video watches this video thinking there are two people sitting on a couch.
So somebody...
One second, let me please answer that. They look at it and say, oh, there are two people sitting on a couch. But in reality, it might be that the person who watches this is the only living creature and is imagining all these things, including us. And then this whole life was an illusion. It started with birth, and with death it might end or not. That's another question, because if it is only one mind, death cannot exist. But the point is, are there more than one creature, or is there a one universal mind? If there's only one mind, which is in most religions accepted, even in a religion like the Catholic or any other Christian religion, they say it's all God. God is almighty, and it's all Him. He's the creator. When He creates, that means that we are His creations of His mind. So God is the only living creature who is making these things up. So is it God, or are we part of God, or this is the question.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
So I think it would make complete sense if I, for example, were to be 1,000,000,000,000% of the, that would already be a lot, I'm sure, of the consciousness, or whatever you say, God, or, you know, call it what you want. I could say, you know, realistically, maybe I'm beyond 1,000,000,000,000% of consciousness, but I could say I'm a genuine percentage, and I feel like I have a large spectrum of perception, and then I could call myself a 1% or 100%, and it doesn't matter, but would that put me above the rest of the percentages?
So you talk about percentages, you talk
or
about...
one, because I can be a percentage and one at the same time, or not.
The problem...
If I can be a percentage and I can tap into the extreme 100%,
the problem with human thinking is that they always talk about one and the other. It's always one and the other. The one cannot be perceived, that at the same moment when you are the only creature on this planet, that any other creature is also the only creature on the planet. To understand that, all science has been wrong, because they could not understand the fact that when all is one, then each single part of one is also the total of the sum.
In my... Sorry.
Yeah, talk.
In my own evaluations in the past, I've come to the conclusion that 1 is exactly the same as infinity. I think that can apply to this
So why can you then, why do you argue then about other creatures being alive as well?
Because if I'm perceiving myself to be alive, and I can perceive others, that's why I'm saying I would take a step back before doing all kinds of malicious things, because that's the last thing I would like to do with myself.
I would like to know how anybody who is watching this out there is thinking about these questions. Because if you are the only living creature, and it could be, there's no such a thing as proving the opposite. Even if you see us, your husband, your children, your grandparents, a dog and whatever else is in the world, even if you see that, there is no such a proof that it cannot be an illusion of your own mind. If your mind is universal, it can create at any given second all the things which this universe contains. And even your memory of childhood, you say, well, I have a history in my life. Yes, you have a history, but in a moment you recall that history. This recalling of the history can also be an illusion. You can store so much knowledge about what happened in the past, and even if you rethink it, it can be a brand new idea. And so in this case, there's no such a thing to prove that there's any other creature living in this universe than yourself, and you're the universal mind. You are the creator of the world. You are basically the only God exists, and all what you have created, all the other creatures out there, including your own children, husband, friends, and family, all of this can be a fantastic creation of your own mind, and it came with you into existence. And when you go out of existence, or change existence, or change the dimension you live in, all of this might vanish and you start all over again. Think about it. Thank you, Amy, for your time. And I think the way you think is very interesting, but I also must say the way you think is how common people perceive reality. And don't make the mistake, just because you're used to seeing other creatures and the world around you, that it has to be real. Thank you very much. Till next time, Rudolf of Germany.